Okay, I found the preprint full text of the SIREN Study interim report. This is the study that I talked about in a previous video. I'll link it in the description. But I think this study is going to be one of the most important studies that are going to come out in that answers a lot of the questions that we want to answer, like how effective is natural immunity? Do people get reinfected after they get infected once with COVID? How long does it last? How long does the antibody response last? How effective is the vaccine? Are the new variants able to evade immunity or are they not? Do people have asymptomatic transmission? So all of these are the questions that we all have and we want to answer, but there haven't been very good studies answering these questions because they've all been retrospective studies or cross-sectional studies. This is the first prospective study that eliminates a lot of the selection bias and gets good data at time points throughout the study. So they're going to run this study for at least 12 months from June of 2020 to June of 2021, and they are reporting on the information they have from June until November. Okay, so you can watch the other video to get kind of details of this thing, but here's how it works basically. They enrolled, these are all healthcare workers in the United Kingdom. They enrolled 26,800 participants. They could not, 6,000 could not participate either because they had no antibody or PCR data available, so it was unclear whether these people had been previously infected before their enrollment in the study, or they just voluntarily decided to withdraw from the study. So that leaves about 20,000 people, 21,000 people. And what they did is, at the time of enrollment, if you were PCR positive, so you had a PCR test, that's the swab test in your nose, or you had an antibody test that showed that you had antibodies against SARS-CoV-2, then you were put in the positive cohort group. So the positive cohort group is the dark solid line, and the negative cohort group is in the dotted line. So they started getting people enrolled right here, like in June. And so a lot of these are healthcare workers. They gotten sick before they enrolled in the study, and this is a graph of when they got sick. So as expected, remember the big surge was in March, April. A lot of them got infected in March, April, and then it petered out. And then remember the summer was kind of a quiet period. There wasn't that much going on. And so these people, there was very little infections. And then you see the people that have never been infected, they're getting infected kind of later on in the year. And then you see a few infections amongst the people that had been previously infected. So right here, everyone had been previously infected. So you see that there are a few people that are getting infected again. So there is a small reinfection rate. So let's go at this is the new infections and probable and possible and probable reinfections. So the way that they possible reinfections are infections where they had symptoms with a PCR test. Probable is where they had symptoms, PCR test, and also they had a virus isolated or they genomically sequenced it, so they know for sure. So probable is almost definitely infected. So you see that there is even amongst the people that are positive, they had a slight reinfection rate. So let's see. Let's read the abstract. So findings. They had 44 reinfections. So 2 were probable and 42 were possible amongst the baseline positive cohort of. So out of the 20,000 people, 21,000 people, about 7,000 of them had been previously infected at the time of study, the start of the study, which was June 18th. And then they had 14,000 that were negative. They had not been exposed to the virus. And out of those people, they had 318 new positives. Let's go back and read the reinfection case definitions. Okay. So a possible reinfection was defined as a participant with 2 PCR positive samples 90 or more days apart. The reason they do 90 or more days apart is because sometimes people have dead viral particles shedding in their nasopharynx for many days after they're positive. So if it's separated by 3 months, then you figure it's an actual reinfection, not just persistent viral particles that you're just picking up on the PCR test. A probable case additionally required supportive serological data or supportive viral genomic data. So basically, 42 of them had 2 PCR tests, 90 or more days apart. The probable ones had this, plus they had new antibody conversion in their serum, or they had a virus isolated and sequenced from them. So what that shows is basically there is a small rate of reinfection. So 44 out of 7,000, 44 out of 6,614 people got reinfected in about a 5-month period. That's not a very high rate, but it's not zero. And I think I remember reading in here something about the asymptomatic carrier. A bunch of these were asymptomatic. Okay, here we go. 409 new infections were detected. 218 were new PCR positive. 80% of them were symptomatic, and 12% were asymptomatic. And then 9% didn't fill out a questionnaire, so they don't know. 9% we don't know if they were symptomatic. Okay, so here we go. This is the important thing right here. 44 reinfections were identified. 34% were symptomatic. So out of the reinfection, a third of them were symptomatic. So most of these reinfections are asymptomatic, which kind of makes you believe that if you've been infected once, the second infection may not be as bad, which is a good sign, which is good. Okay, so the take-home point from this study is there is a small rate of reinfection. Most of them are asymptomatic. That is both good and bad. What that means is that asymptomatic people can still shed virus, and so they're still theoretically contagious. And so you could be contagious and be asymptomatic even though you've had previous infection. And this probably means that the vaccine is the same way, that vaccines will protect you, but there's a small amount of loss of protection. Like we know the vaccine is 95% protective. This one would seem let's do the math. So 44 out of 6,614. Okay, that's 0.1% over 5 months. So that's like 99% protective in 5 months. It's pretty good, actually. And did I do the math right? Let me see. Let's try it again. That seems too good to be true. Oh, okay. No. The way we have to figure it is we figure 44 based on the other, based on the non-previous infection rate. So the non-previous infection rate was... Okay, so basically the negative cohort is about twice the size. And they had, how many infections did they have? Okay, 409. So if about half of that would be like 205. So that means we would expect 205 in this cohort, 205 minus 44. So we protected 161. 161 divided by 204. No, wrong. 161. Okay, so about 79% protective. So natural infection in this cohort seems like it's about 79% effective, which is pretty similar to 95%. I mean, not that far off. So that's pretty good. So yeah, previous infection is protective. You still can get reinfected, and the majority of them, about 60%, are asymptomatic when they get reinfected. So it's going to be very interesting when this study goes forward, which they talk about right here. The new variants are now hitting the UK. You know, the South African variant, the UK variant, all the new variants are going to hit them. And then we're going to see, does their reinfection rate go up with the new variants? And when they sequence them, is it the new variants in them? And also, most of these people probably are now vaccinated with the vaccines because they were all healthcare workers with either the Pfizer or Moderna or AstraZeneca vaccine. And we're going to see how effective are those vaccines in this population against the new variants. So that I'm really looking forward to the results of this study when they finally are done, because this will give us the answers that we're looking for in terms of those studies. And also, they're going to measure antibody levels and PCR test them every 2 weeks for a year. So we'll see how their antibody levels are maintained over the course of a year. Okay, so I think this is an exciting study, and we'll keep track of it. Thanks for watching.